I'm Allison from Learning at the Primary Pond. I'm a literacy specialist, and in this video, I'm going to share some activity ideas for your early finishers who finish the text early during your guided reading or small group instruction in K2. We all know that small group time is absolutely precious. We want to make every minute count, so these are some high quality activities that can be great for your kids, but also make your life easier. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to hit subscribe and the little bell to be notified every time I post a brand new video about teaching literacy in K2. Okay, so we all know small group guided reading, very precious time, and we also all know that sometimes our kids do not finish reading the text or their little book at the same time. In the chat or in the comments, I want you to type yes if you can relate to having planned a guided reading lesson that you're so excited about, you think it's going to go great, and then your kids don't all finish the text at the same time, and it just kind of throws the lesson off. If this has ever happened to you, please let me know yes in the comments so I know I'm not alone here. This has happened to me many times. My kids just don't seem to finish at exactly the same time, and really I feel like that's normal. Now, if you have like vastly different finishing times and it's a consistent problem, then you may want to look at bumping a child down or up a group. So that's always a consideration, but we're functioning under the assumption here that you're happy with your group, the kids aren't all finishing at the same time, and you need some activities to kind of fill in for that time when some kids are finishing the book and others are already done. Okay, so let's actually go ahead and get into that. The first activity that I do, and that's the easiest thing to do, and it's also my number one preference, is just to have them reread the text. Or if it's a longer text, you can just say reread your favorite part. So that is one option. Rereading is great for fluency. Now, I will do that many times, but sometimes my kids just get a little bit tired of hearing reread over and over again. So that's where my interactive guided reading mats come in. These are actually in my Teachers Pay Teacher store, Learning at the Primary Pond. I'm going to walk you through them just so you can kind of see like different activities for readers at different levels. These are all, again, going to be activities that they can do like post finishing the text. Okay, so let me talk about the structure of the mat to begin with. Hopefully you can see that there. Basically, this thing in the middle here is the early finisher activity. It could also be like post-lesson word work. That's an easy thing too. But basically, it outlines the lesson. It tells them like, okay, this is the strategy we're going to focus on. Then they're going to read the text. Then they're going to do this little activity if they finish early, or maybe they don't finish early and they get to do it later. And then this is what we're going to do after we read. So we retell. So it actually gets the kids to take a lot of ownership over the lesson because they feel like they know what to focus on. It's a visual, because I don't know how many times I've like taught a strategy or talked about a strategy and then the kids read and they don't use it. This is a really good way to remind them what they're supposed to be focusing on. And then again, this middle thing is the early finisher section. So what you would do if you wanted to use something like this is you would give each child a copy. And obviously you have to explain how it works. What I actually like to do is put them in some sort of sleeve here so that the kids can like write with a dry erase marker and then wipe it off. Otherwise, you're going to be making a lot of copies. It's not necessarily a bad thing to make copies sometimes, but this can save paper and save a little bit of time for you as well. So these little plastic sleeves are helpful. You can get them pretty much anywhere, like Amazon or wherever else. So each kiddo will have one. They'll know what to do. And then like if you have a lower level reader, you know, kindergarten, early first grade, they might do something just like write the first letter for each picture. So D for donut, R for robot, right? They say the name of the picture to themselves and then they write the first letter and that's it. It's very self-explanatory, very easy. And then if you use these, you can do more than once or, you know, with different activities with a similar structure. And so this is a great thing, again, for the kids to do if they're an early reader and they finish early, is just write the first sound in some pictures. So it's reinforcing a phonics skill that you're probably working on with them. Okay, so that's like a very beginning reader. Now let's look at like late kindergarten or early first grade. So here we see the mat getting a little more complex. Right here is the early finisher activity. So it's just like a little strategy, what they're supposed to be doing before they read, while they read, and then if I finish early, I will. And this says write the words with digraphs. So it's like some sound boxes that guide the kids in spelling like chin, shell, ship. So again, you are choosing the activity depending upon what phonics skills that particular group needs to work on. So it's very relevant to their level, okay? Then we have the after reading, but again, here is what we're focusing on with the post reading activity. So spelling words into sound boxes. The sound boxes are a nice support because you may be just like helping some of the other kids finish the text so they can kind of go and do that on their own. Okay, so that's like late kinder, early first grade. Now let's move on to like mid, maybe late first grade, depending on how advanced your kids are. So these, by the way, in the Learning at the Primary Pond Teachers Pay Teachers store, they're leveled. Leveled in the sense that like they use guided reading levels so you can kind of match them to your kiddos. But even if you're not doing like guided reading, you can still use them for sure. Okay, so same structure, and then here is another one of my favorite activities. Let's say that we're working on a spelling pattern like silent E. So what I'll do is I'll have them go back through the text, which is really good, especially if you have a decodable or a phonics controlled text, and have them make a list of those words that they notice that have a silent E. So it's getting them to connect their word work skills and their phonics learning to the actual book that they've read. So that's a really simple, again, thing for them to do. And you don't have to wait till like late first grade or mid first grade to do this. Even kindergartners, maybe they're learning short vowel A. They can go back through the book and make a list of the short vowel A words that they find. You know, your more advanced kids, make a list of 2-syllable words. Make a list of words that have diphthongs in them, or prefixes or suffixes. It doesn't have to be limited to something this simple. Okay, so again, that's like mid-late first grade. Now let's talk about early second grade. So this mat is for kids who are reading nonfiction text. And again, we've got like the before reading, the while I'm reading, and then here is the early finisher activity. It says, if I finish early, I will make a list of words in the text that are new to me and write what I think they mean. This is so good for kiddos who, you know, they're decoding. What's good for any kiddos, but especially when like their decoding may be relatively strong, but they're kind of blowing through words that they don't know what they mean. So they might just read over it and then not even stop and try to figure it out, or not even notice like, oh, that's a word that I don't recognize. They just might be blowing through it, like word calling, but not really thinking. So this requires them to slow down, try to figure out, you know, what are these words that I don't know yet? And then also make some sort of inference, perhaps by using context clues, or just guessing, and then you can talk about it later about what these words mean. So this is then great for a really, you know, good discussion afterward. Hey, what words were new to you guys? And again, this mat is designed specifically for nonfiction. That this little activity can work with fiction or nonfiction, but with nonfiction, it's great. Okay, so here is like a late second grade, and this activity is very similar, but I wanted to show it to you because it's slightly different. So this was just list a couple words that are new to me, and this has other strategies on it, but this activity is, if I finish early, I will make a list of the 4 most important vocabulary words in the text. Okay, so they make a list of the words and what they think those words mean. Now this is different from the other one because this is actually a more advanced skill of determining importance. Like, what are these 4 most important words that have to do with nonfiction or the topic that they're reading about? It's identifying or determining importance, and then it's also perhaps like, you know, figuring out the word from a glossary or a text feature or context. So it can be challenging, but can also be a really good activity because your higher kids may finish earlier, and this is some good brain work for them to really challenge them. All right, I hope that this was helpful. If you're watching this, I imagine that you could also use some new ideas for word work and phonics instruction for your kiddos. Because yes, during small group guided reading, we're reading a text, but as you can see from those examples, there's also a lot of word work involved. I have a free in-depth 1-hour workshop on teaching phonics in K2. You can sign up, look for a time that suits you. There's tons of new times refreshed, so save the link if you don't find one now and then come back to it later. Again, it's totally free. You get freebies and a certificate for PD credits, so look for the link in that video. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.